Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. Out of all of our Dexter cattle, there's one young steer that's really unique, and his name is Sammy. I want to tell you his story today. One morning in July last year, I went out to check the cows in the pasture, and there was a calf laying in the laneway, and the laneway's kind of dirty because the cows traverse it a lot on their way from the water trough to the pasture, and there was a calf laying there in the dirt. He was wet and dirty. It was clear that his mom hadn't cleaned him off after he was born. He was brand new, and he was laying there all by himself. So I went looking through the herd to see which cow had had him. And you can tell when a mama cow's just delivered because she usually has some remaining afterbirth hanging out of her. So I went looking. And lo and behold, Nellie, one of our 5-year-old cows who'd only had one calf before this, always had had breeding problems, who had had a calf that we found still in the sack in March of the year before, was the one who had had the calf. Well, I picked up the calf and brought him to his mom. His mom wanted nothing to do with him. She gave him a sniff and she walked off. So I tried again. I picked him up, I brought him over to right in front of her, and Nellie's got big horns. And she picked him up with her horns underneath him and flipped him up like this into the air, and he fell on the ground and she walked away. So at this point I had a big decision to make. Do I bring him and his mom into the barn and maybe put her in the head gate for a while and see if he'll nurse and try to get them to bond? Or do I just forego all that trouble and bring him in and bottle feed him as a calf? Well, I knew from Nellie's character that she probably wasn't going to make a good mom. She was our boss cow at the time, and she behaved more like a bull than a cow. So I didn't think it was a very good idea to try to force Nellie to be Sammy's mom. So we brought Sammy into the barn, and we didn't have any milk replacer or colostrum replacer, and he was brand new and he hadn't eaten yet. So I ran down to the farm store and picked some up, brought it back, and started bottle feeding him. Now, deciding to bottle feed a calf is not an investment to be taken lightly. We're talking about 4 months of at least 2 feedings a day, a special place to house the calf to keep it warm, and to really become its mother. We brought him in here to the barn and into a small pen in the back here, and put a collar on him so that we could make sure to be able to get hold of him when we needed to, and started bottle feeding him twice a day. He started out with about a quart twice a day, and pretty soon he was at a quart and a half, and then 2 quarts for probably the last 2 or 3 months. And it was a time investment. And during that time, Sammy really bonded with my wife and I. So we were his parents practically. And he spent his time separated from the herd. He was in the little pen for probably a week, and then we brought him out here and tied the rope to one of the posts on the barn so that he could wander around here but not get out and not get through the livestock feeder panels here. So he laid in the hay a lot here and saw the cows but didn't really interact with them. He spent the first probably month or 2 in here, and then we moved him outside and tied him to a tree so he could graze on the grass. Well, about that time, I guess it was August, and it was time to move the turkeys out. So we moved the turkeys out, and we started having a problem with an owl that would roost in the spruce trees near where the turkeys were. And when turkeys are out for the first few weeks, they're small enough where they're more susceptible to predators than when they get big. So we thought, well, how can we keep an owl out? There's no fence that's going to keep an owl out. And what we started doing is we started changing up the turkey pen every night. So we hung Christmas lights, we hung a spotlight, and every night we would do something different, and it seemed to work keeping the predator away. But sort of the crowning idea we had for the turkeys that year was to put Sammy in with the turkeys. So Sammy became not only a bottle-fed calf, but a bottle-fed turkey guard calf. Now, Sammy didn't get along very well with the turkeys. The turkeys would come up and peck at him. And of course, the turkeys poop all over the place. It was an uncomfortable partnership, I guess. But Sammy did keep the owl away. When you're raising a bottle-fed calf, there's more issues to be concerned with than just the time investment. There's the money, which you wouldn't usually spend, and a calf will drink a lot of milk replacer in 4 months. And then there's also the socialization aspect of it, that they never really learn, as they would from their mother, how to socialize with other cattle. And the last issue is that the calves are never really as healthy as ones that nurse off their mother. We did get colostrum replacer and fed him that in his first few hours of life. But he was susceptible to scours. And scours is simply just diarrhea from, and Mom probably would have given more resistance to that. So not only did we have to bottle feed him twice a day, but we had to clean him. We had to clean his rear end a lot because of the scours, which his mom would have normally done. And when the scours became particularly bad, we had to feed him electrolytes and sometimes Pepto-Bismol, which worked really well to sort of coat his stomach and make his stool harden up. He got through that, but he's still smaller than any of our other cattle that are the same age. Now, as I said, feeding a bottle calf isn't cheap. Our investment for 4 months of feeding was a bag of colostrum replacer, which was $30. Stuff's not cheap. And 6 bags of milk replacer, which wound up being about another $250. Plus electrolyte treatments, Pepto-Bismol. It wound up being about $300 to bottle feed Sammy. And that's money that we'll never get back, that we wouldn't have had to spend with a calf that was nursed off his mom. When you add his small size to that, it's really not a very profitable enterprise. But we love Sammy. He's the most personable cow that we have in the pasture right now. When I come into the pasture, Sammy's usually the first one who comes to greet me. So with Hillary and I being Sammy's mom, we're kind of the ones he looks to. And sometimes I worry when he's out here by himself with the rest of the cattle, it's kind of like his herd is missing. As I said, Sammy never really grew out the way that the other steers his age did. He looks more like a calf from this year when they're standing side by side than one who's about 16 months old. Sometimes Sammy can be a little annoying. He really likes to come up behind us and ride us if we're standing in the pasture. But no matter how annoying he seems to be, I always feel for him. When we walk in to move the fence in the summertime, Sammy's usually grazing by himself while the herd's elsewhere. And when we move the fence, he usually sticks up at the top of the fence with Hillary while she's moving the fence, while the other cows are strung all along the line waiting to move with the fence. So it's a different life for him. And I don't know whether that's good or bad. I can't tell what he's thinking. But it really makes me wonder, you know, cows are meant to be social animals in big herds. And what goes through his mind when he's alone and doesn't really feel like part of the herd? Sammy also is perpetually at the bottom of the cattle pecking order. When the new calves were born this year, I thought, well, maybe he'll bond with the new calves and socialize with them. But he never really did. He just sticks by himself. Sammy loves a chin scratch, though. That's his favorite thing. Right, Sammy? He used to drive us nuts when we bottle fed him, because when a calf sucks off their mom, to get the mom to lower their milk, they buck up into the udder. And so that's an innate reflex. Well, Sammy would do that with the bottle. So we'd have the bottle down and he'd be drinking along, and then all of a sudden he would buck his head upward like this and scare us, and sometimes knock the bottle across the barn. But it was just his instinct that he wanted mom to lower her milk. Right, Sammy? Yeah. Little buddy. But you can see this is, Sammy is a 2018 calf, 1806. That's a heifer over there, 1803. And you can see how much bigger she is than he is. And he seems to grow outwards rather than upwards. He's always had a very big belly. He always ate really well, but he never really grew. He's certainly grown a lot since when he was a calf, especially when I dug out old pictures of him as a calf for this video and realized, geez, you was a little tiny thing, weren't you? There's one final aspect to raising a bottle calf that I haven't mentioned, and that's the day that we have to load Sammy onto the trailer and take him to the butcher. And that's going to happen next year. It'll be an awful tough day. Benny's become like one of the family to us because, after all, he's like one of our children. We had to feed him and take care of him, clean him, treat his sickness, just like you would with your own children. So it's going to be tough. One of the ways that we honor our beef animals is when we do get the meat back and I grill burgers or grill a steak, it's called a Sammy burger, Sammy steak, Flynn burger. And that connects us to the memory of the animal. Now, I run into people at market all the time that don't want to know anything about the animal except how it was raised that they're about to eat. I think it's appropriate to do the opposite, where we remember what the animal's given us, and it's kind of a way of keeping their memory alive. We're going to have lots more stories about our Dexter herd. It's a fairly quiet season right now, but as we head through the winter and towards spring, the cows are going to start looking like barrels with their calves. We're going to enter calving season, and I'd like you all to be here with me when we go through that, because we're going to be filming it all. So to make sure that you catch those videos, please subscribe to our channel, and there's a little link down there at the bottom. Until then, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.